Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, I want you to picture this. Have you ever walked into a room, maybe it was a massive meeting, some awkward networking event, or even just your very first day at a new job, looked around at everyone and immediately thought to yourself, oh man, I absolutely do not belong here. Any minute now, someone's going to figure out I am a total fraud. Well, if your heart just skipped a little beat hearing that, trust me, you are far from alone. Today, we're diving deep into the concepts from Ross McCammon's brilliant book, Works Well with Others, and we're unpacking what is basically the ultimate outsider's guide to the professional world.
Just think about this hilariously relatable quiz right from the cover of the book. It poses a simple question. Which of the following have you accidentally said in a professional situation instead of just saying thank you, strictly because of panic? Was it you're welcome? Was it thank welcome? Or my personal favorite, you're you? I mean, if you've ever blurted out thank welcome to a boss because your brain just completely short-circuited under pressure, this explainer was quite literally made for you. Workplace anxiety is this incredibly awkward, hilarious reality that we basically all share, and admitting it instantly lowers our defenses.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the core message we're exploring today is actually incredibly simple but really profound. You don't think you belong, but you do. Of course you do. You might feel like you don't have the right pedigree, or you aren't well leveraged, or you just lack those magical hookups that everyone else seems to naturally possess. But guess what? Those feelings of inadequacy are universally shared. So in this explainer, we're going to validate that exact feeling and show you how your so-called outsider status isn't some huge weakness. It's actually a superpower, and you can learn to harness it.
All right, moving into Section 1, the imposter phenomenon. Subtitle, You Are Not Alone.
What's really fascinating here is that this super common feeling actually has a formal, documented psychological name. It's called the imposter phenomenon. It was coined way back in 1978 by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes, and it essentially breaks down into a few distinct symptoms, right? It's that nagging, persistent feeling that you just aren't as successful as people think you are. It's constantly minimizing your own achievements by chalking them all up to pure luck. And it's carrying around this heavy, exhausting dread that eventually someone is going to pull back the curtain and expose you as a fraud. Now, initially, researchers thought this was mainly linked to high-achieving women, but they very quickly realized, nope, it applies widely to almost everyone, men included.
Which brings us to Section 2. Even the experts feel fake. A rapid-fire normalization.
Seriously, take Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. You would think that reaching the absolute highest court in the entire country would permanently cure any lingering self-doubt, right? Well, not at all. She actually admitted, my first month as a judge, I was terrified. I felt myself almost an imposter meeting my fate so brazenly. If a literal Supreme Court justice feels like she's sneaking into her job, I think we can probably give ourselves a little bit of grace.
Or how about Oscar-winning actress Kate Winslet? She admits, sometimes I wake up in the morning before going off to a shoot and I think, I can't do this. I'm a fraud. All of that global acclaim, all those massive awards, and her brain still plays the exact same cruel trick on her that ours plays on us right before a standard Tuesday morning Zoom meeting. It's wild.
And then there's comedy legend Tina Fey. She offers this brilliant, really funny strategy for just surviving the feeling. She says you just try to ride the egomania when it comes and enjoy it and then slide through the idea of fraud. And isn't that just so true? It's an unavoidable pendulum swing. You have these brief moments where you feel like, yes, I'm completely crushing it, followed almost immediately by the crushing certainty that you have somehow fooled absolutely everyone around you.
So the crucial point we need to take away here is this hugely important rule from the author. Everyone is weird and nervous. Let me say that again. No matter how famous or how important they are, everyone is just really weird and really nervous on the inside. And here's the real kicker with this. It applies especially to the people who don't seem weird or nervous at all. The people you respect the most, they aren't necessarily better minds or even harder workers. They've just gotten a lot better at seeming better. They've learned how to act like they belong just by performing the mechanics of confidence. Now, to really ground this abstract concept of workplace panic, let's look at a tangible, super relatable anecdote. We're going to look at the author's own ultimate nightmare scenario. Section 3, the Esquire interview. A case study in panic.
Okay, so back in 2005, Ross McCammon was a young editor at Spirit. That's the in-flight magazine for Southwest Airlines. And as he describes it, he was working in this completely nondescript business park in the Texas suburbs. He felt like he had absolutely no Ivy League pedigree, no big flashy industry connections. And then, completely out of nowhere, he gets a call from a recruiter at Hearst Magazines in New York City. They wanted him to interview for an editor position at Esquire. Now, if Esquire was the big dance, he felt like his in-flight magazine was basically smoking pot behind the gym. The contrast between the two worlds was just incredibly intimidating.
So his initial reaction to this massive, life-changing recruiter call, it was this really potent mix of absolute giddiness and complete revulsion. He said he could literally smell the gasoline of opportunity, but his brain instantly began an auto-psych out. Get this, he literally Googled magazine hiring scam because he was so thoroughly convinced they had to be messing with him. But he agreed to go anyway, and it was driven by this one simple realization. There's a great energy in the spot on the Venn diagram where awkwardness and ambition overlap.
Let's walk through how this whole thing builds, because the panic really escalates throughout the day. Step 1, he actually flies to New York. Okay, so far so good. Step 2, he arrives super early on a Monday morning. He's leaning against a wall near Central Park, obsessively reviewing his 10 pages of handwritten prep notes. He's wearing his nicest shoes, he's wearing a tie. And then, step 3, he realizes a crucial, completely devastating mistake. He wasn't wearing a suit jacket. To a job interview at Esquire magazine, literally the ultimate global authority on men's fashion.
I mean, you can just imagine the escalating dread of this moment, right? He has to take this creaky elevator all the way up to the 13th floor, knowing full well he's a walking fashion don't. And when those elevator doors finally open, he is immediately confronted by this massive framed, poster-sized cover of the magazine featuring Ewan McGregor. And in his hyper-anxious, completely panicked state, McCammon literally hallucinates that Ewan McGregor is staring him down, shaking his head with pity, and that the cover line actually morphs to read, "Putz doesn't wear suit jacket to interview. Let's see how this goes."
And that leads us to Section 4, the power of authenticity. Harnessing the fear. Well, spoiler alert, he actually survived that interview, and believe it or not, he got the job. In this brilliant little story perfectly illustrates the core thesis of the entire text. The big, industry-shattering secret is that you actually don't need to fake it to make it. Impostorism just isn't something you can fake your way out of. Instead, you have to actively embrace your outsider status. McCammon survived those incredibly intimidating Esquire interview conversations precisely because his overwhelming anxiety gave way to this honest, authentic distraction. He didn't have a perfectly polished persona to fall back on, so he literally just had to be himself. The real lesson here? Master the small, practical mechanics of your work, actually use your fear to work for you, and most importantly, retain your honest, authentic weirdness. You see, this completely shatters the great professional myth. We're taught that successful people are just born polished, that they naturally belong in every single room they walk into, and that they never, ever sweat through their shirts or accidentally say, "Thank welcome." But the comforting reality is that success is really just about being a human being. It's about making mistakes, but understanding the small customs of professional life just enough to make the people around you feel comfortable. It's the little things, you guys. A really great handshake, a genuine smile, knowing how to recover from an error gracefully, those are the things that add up to something incredibly big.
Which brings us to a final, slightly provocative question that I want to leave you with today. Are you ready to use your weirdness? Because it is officially time to stop trying to cure your imposter syndrome. Stop trying to hide the fact that you feel like an outsider. Because that awkwardness, when you combine it with your ambition, is exactly what gives you your unique edge. So embrace it, master the small mechanics, and let your authentic self lead the way. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see you next time.